Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Badgers and Bells, a Redwall podcast. We are in chapters 18 and 19 of Mossflower. Yep, Mossflower, here we are again. Long book. Definitely, I think, one of the longest of the series, and we're only slight way through. It also has one of the longest first sections, because usually divided once again into three parts, and this may be one of the longest first parts of the book. I think Tagrung has the shortest. Anyway, uh, yeah. So here we are, once again at Redwall. I wanted to slow down just a little bit. We'll be talking about some riddles in Redwall, and so that'll be nice. And then a few other small little details. So the main part of this is them finding the map through a series of riddles and deciding to finally explore their way out of Mossflower and on to their adventure to find Lord Brocktree. Boar, not Lord Brocktree. Boar the fighter to help bring him back. So there we are. So what are we to discuss? Well, let's see. Let's start with the riddles. So, Brian Jacques really likes riddles in his series, and I think this is when riddles really start taking off in the series. We got, of course, a couple in Redwall, but this is the first time where we kind of really hone in. Um, I think Redwall riddles can be overall touch and miss. Well, I shouldn't say touch and miss, but touch and go kind of. They can be great. They can be okay. I think it's at least kind of this thing where Brian Jakes is inducing kids to at least think about riddles in a and how you piece things together, but they're very basic. So we have just engagement of just general thought of stepping out of your uh, way of thinking and try to get you to see things in a little bit different perspective, even though most of these are pretty easy if you're over a certain age. So we have the first riddle, which is regards to where the family crest is. So the Badgers have a family crest, and they get it working and get the family crest to turn to reveal the second riddle, and then there is a third riddle. So the first one is fairly easy because all they have to do is find the family crest. Once they find the family one that has the right one that turns in order to produce the riddle, we have a series of riddles. So first of all, first part of riddle is focused on Boar's name, the fact that there's a series of um, leaves that spell out Boar's name, and so that gets us thinking about Boar, the fighter, who was again um, Bella's father, who was then the son of Lord Brocktree, and so this is being written by Lord Brocktree to his son. And so Boar would have been familiar with this. So it's really written specifically to Boar. That's one of the things I do like about the riddle, is that it at least is done in a way that where you can see, in terms of keeping it in the line of Badgers, that each one is leaving a riddle specifically for the one that was to come after him, and Boar just happened to never write one for either um, Bella's mate or her son, Sunflash. because he never came back. So this is still the riddle would apply directly to Boar. So we like that. And then we also have then them thinking through, right, the riddle. And we have two elements to it. One is, where did Lord Brocktree eat his food, right? Under ale, under bread, under cheese, right? Which is the key to that. And then thinking about that as, well, okay, then what? There was a purpose for Lord Brocktree, but then there was the secondary purpose of that table, which was for Boar the fighter, which is uh, being used as like a fort or a castle, right? And so it's stuck underneath that special table that Boar specifically used to eat at, and where Lord where Boar uh, managed to have his food. Have his playtime. So we have that, and so that's just a nice little riddle to get us thinking. And again, these riddles are fairly simple, but it gets you to think about the numerous ways to think about things in multiple facets. So we have a table, but we also have a tent or a castle or a fort. And for this same thing being used in two different ways, right? And so just piecing that together in kids' minds is really helpful. And then we have the third riddle, which is all from the perspective of a goose who has traveled. And I'm assuming since there's a in this chapter there was in that section there's also mention of a, let me see, where was that? There's a mention of Lady Sablebrock. So Lady Sablebrock indicates that this poem is even way older, because he left a clue for his son, but here we have a clue that's dating back further to more ancient times that has been passed down through all the Badger Lords and Ladies. And so we have this being the key riddle that applies to all Badger Lords and Ladies when they're finally go off questing. So we have the hiddenness of the real map plus the real riddle, which will lead to Salamandastron. Skyfroze, I noticed that will be a reference in Hyrule Lane, strangely. A long way off, but I was like, Skyfurrow, wow, that's a name Brian Jacques went back to probably, and he was like, when he was thinking of one of the goose in that book, he was thinking back to a name he could use as kind of a family name for the goose, and he thought, oh, why not just use the one already established in the Redwall series? So I think that was kind of fun to see. So then we have, right, everything from the perspective of a goose, which is first Mossflower looking like a sea of trees. We have two different snakes, right? We have a snake made of dirt, and then we have a snake made of water. So there's a road and a river, and we have the sea of grass, right? The golden flowering of the open prairie. So we have all those things. So just again, all of this is very basic, but it gets kids to think in a very kind of just general way of how to expand your thoughts on stuff. So again, are the rules that um, complex or interesting, but I don't think they're meant to be. Again, I think they're just meant for kids to just get their minds thinking a little beyond the kind of general, maybe jokey riddles they would have been exposed to up to this point. Um, there's not much else in this two chapters. I just kind of wanted to focus on kind of riddles and what they mean. There are a couple other things to just take note of. This is also our first introduction to Dinny, who is the major mole character of this book and is going to join Martin and Gomf on their adventure. I really like Dinny. Dinny is probably my favorite mole of the series. Overall, he becomes more and more important and fun as this thing goes on. He kind of has kind of like a middle ground kind of nature between Gomp's kind of cheekiness, and we have well, it wasn't our introduction because Dinny was also no. Dinny was not mentioned in that part. So okay, yes, this is our first introduction, Dinny. I don't know why I got confused there. Okay, but yes, so we have Dinny the Mole, um, and he kind of serves as kind of a nice in between Martin's seriousness and Gump's cheekiness, as kind of being the stout guy in the middle of the conversation and kind of able to have a sturdy head, but also not fall into Martin's more strong-willed and very kind of higher nature, but he doesn't also resort to a lot of the antics Gomph has. So he has a bit of a head on his shoulder while not being Martin's in any way Martin's equal. So so that's kind of the role he plays, steady head, and that's of course going to be an recurring thing through most of the moles in the series. Let's see, what else do we have in this part? So we have of course, a bit of playful banter between all the characters. So we really establish the ongoing dynamic that's going to especially get between that really is going to establish Martin, Gomph, and Dinny as our main heroes. And we'll get more into that as the series goes on, at least as the book goes on. And then let's see. I think that's all for that section. So we first see, so in this section, we also see Gingerbeer reaching out and trying to protect and also help Ferdy and Cogs. And we see just how much, again, he's continuing to develop that kind of nature that where in the first section, kind of, he was like, yeah, he was reasonable, and he was of sound mind and quick on gentleness and mercy on some level. But also, we're beginning to see just how much he's developing more and more away from anything, even what his father was, into his own character, into his own way, where he basically has abandoned wanting to basically abandon everything he was. And we're going to see that really manifest by the end with what happens as his book ends in this series, and how he's going to completely abandon that. So we see that a bit. And then the only really other bit is we have a nice little bit with Clud. Clud once again showing off that he wants to be the smart one, and he is, but he also is still not like amazing. He's more of a, again, kind of general get to him guy, but he's not much of a thinker. But he at least has the desire to appear to be so. And then we have that poor thick tail, this is what, like, Argulor's third? This is it his third or second kill in this series now. Yay! Argulor's at it again, and it won't be his last or his most important, and we'll get to that. But like, we're beginning to see Argulor's body count stack up in the series, so it's really fun to see. Again, Argulor is always one of my favorites in the series. I just love him as a character, and I love just this thing of this poor Thicktail who wants to do a good job but can't seem to get his mind around a simple order, and you kind of actually feel pretty bad for Thicktail. Thicktail being the most like sympathetic vermin so far in the series. It's like, oh gosh, poor guy. Like, didn't even know what hit him. And he was just trying to relay an order. It's like, yep. So there you go. Argulor's next victim in the series. There we are. But yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah. So there we are. Excuse the sound of the background. I guess someone's vacuuming. But yeah, I think that's it anyway. And again, we're trying to go slowly through the series, so I didn't really want to get focus on the riddles for a good second. So there we are. All right, next time, maybe I'll brush through again another 4 or 5 chapters, but I wanted to touch on just the riddles again, because it's something Brian Jakes does, and we should just focus on them and try to figure out some of that angle. And maybe before we even get to it, what we'll do is see if we can solve the rest of that riddle. Maybe I'll do a quick in between where I do that. Can we solve the rest of the riddle without having read the rest of the book or trying to remember certain things? Maybe that's what I'll do. All right. Thanks for listening. This has been Badgers of Bells, a Redwall podcast. Again, going slow, but who cares? I just hope you're enjoying it. If you have any feedback or things that you want me to touch on regarding this series and maybe do something else or different, do more drawings, whatever, just any suggestions you have, just please let me know. And I would love to get some feedback on how I can improve. So thank you all for listening and have a wonderful night or day, whatever time. And just always love Redwall. Bye.